Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast, he is just absolutely one of a kind. I'm pretty sure I've called him, if not the brightest basketball mind I know. He's. I mean, the list. It's Dallas Amico is right at the top. It's just he's right. He's got to be right there because he sees the game in a way I wish I could. So, joining me from the Strickland. The absolute best. I just love having him on. It makes me smile. Dallas Amico, how are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing wonderfully. Just been having a blast watching the Knicks for once.
When's the last time we can say that?
Oh my God.
I don't know.
I'm just smiles all day long because of the Knicks. So it's pretty great.
The payoff when you're a crazy fan. I mean, the downtimes are significant, but the payoff is nice.
We're only 4-3.
This is a payoff. That was like the tenor of what I wrote today. Is it's like, man, it did. I've run out of things to say because I'm so not used to this. And who knows? Maybe it's only getting started, but we'll talk about that. So, you asked me several days ago, well, what do you want to talk about on the pod? And I was like, look, I am not one to hold you to constraints. That would be like, telling, like giving Mozart like sheet music. Like you don't do that. So, Dallas, I will start by just tossing it to you. What has stood out to you so far through seven games plus 4 preseason games with this team?
The absolute biggest thing is Julius Randle in every aspect. I have to start with him just because I've been on this pod criticizing Julius Randle in the past. I have written articles criticizing his defense, criticizing his offense. And he has just, I think a lot of my criticisms were accurate and apt, but he just turned it around in an incredible way. So I actually, one of the most distinctive plays for me so far happened last night.
Okay.
Where he blew his defensive assignment. He messed it up. But the reason he messed it up made me smile. And it demonstrates the difference, the change of mindset that we're seeing. The reason he messed it up is because he was simultaneously pointing to 2 different guys and communicating to them and telling them to cover to get their help assignments right. Because they were mistaken, right? 2 younger, Knox and I can't remember who the other one was. But so he's like doing this, and he was only like a beat slow in his closeout as a result. Mm-hmm. But he was a beat slow, and I think it was Cam Reddish hit a 3 or something like this. But just the fact that the reason he's making a mistake now is because he's communicating.
Can we infer he was not doing this that much last year?
No, God. So I mean, the defense was horrendous last year, just absolutely horrendous. Painful to watch, just lack of engagement. And he still has he's never going to be a great defender. He's for a big, he's actually really fleet of foot, turns his hips really well. So on the perimeter, he's pretty good for a big, but he just doesn't have the length or the ups to be a rim protector. And he's always really struggled with help defense. He struggled in Queens, he struggled in LA. It's not a new thing. But this year he's been engaged and he's been making the right rotations. There have been a few times where he's taken plays off. I think you've pointed out maybe a couple of them or talked about a couple of them.
But again, with this usage, show me the NBA player maybe there's one that is, but
1,000%. The dude's playing 40 minutes a night, 42 minutes a night.
He's running an offense.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing, a giant area of growth, which you don't see sort of. It's popping, at least for me on film, and then you see it in the numbers too. His screening.
Yeah.
And this is huge because he's screening, he's punishing guys now with his screens.
Which he should. He's built like a brick shit house.
Yeah, he is.
I'm sorry, but again, look at him.
Well, I believe you and I have been on here before.
We have.
Completely flabbergasted or frustrated by it in the past. But that's just all to say it takes a lot of energy out of you, taking those hits. every time down. And so just like to show not only its visit popping on film, but in the numbers. So last year he was averaging 1.5 screen assists a game.
Okay.
This year he's averaging 3.3.
Oh, geez. Wow.
So over double. And he is playing a little bit more than he played last year, but over double. And
that's a lot.
Just show it. It's showing. He's not slipping every single screen to go, not even to roll, but to like go post up and like clog the paint.
He's not doing the first bad thing to lead into the second objectively worse bad thing.
Exactly. I'm flabbergasted. I'm so excited. He's been brilliantly fun to watch. He's turning the ball over like he thinks the other team is his team, but it's still so beautiful. I like Julius Randle. I'm like his new biggest fan. After being his biggest, because we always want them to do well.
Yeah.
To succeed. And Julius seems like a really good dude. So it's hard to I always feel bad when I criticize somebody. So it just makes me feel really good to watch him succeed like this and do something.
I have so many thoughts that run through my mind when you talk. Let me try to get them all out in some coherent fashion. First, a little bit off topic, but I was having a text conversation with Bernard and Yash, who are on this podcast occasionally. Again, not something I even want to get into, but just Yash is always like, what trade can we make? So he's like, oh, would a contender, trade for Randle? And I don't know, because of the defense and the off ball stuff. And it's weird because like most times when you talk about hiding a guy on defense, you talk about putting him on the least threatening offensive player. But for him, it's more like who, like you said, it's the off-ball stuff, whereas he could actually stick with a guy who was like, quote unquote, threatening in terms of the one-on-one stuff. So I just, again, not something we need to discuss right now. The second thing in terms of, you want guys to succeed and he seems like a good guy. There was some of the stuff that came out at the end of last year about, oh, maybe he wasn't the best leader and he was first out of the locker room. Like Berman has written this. And like, I kind of saw it with my own eyes. He didn't look like a guy who was thrilled to be here, but then you think about like the situation last year, and I know this is like the furthest thing from X's and O's and analytics, but can we really hold that against them? Like it was a crappy situation, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a crappy situation schematically with the front office. It can't feel good it can't feel good to lose every day. Which is essentially what they did. But then it must feel even worse to be like the target of a giant, the biggest city in the US, almost all of their criticism, right? Like people were not very kind to Julius Randle last year. And so like, I mean, that can't be good. That can't feel good.
No. And like, you look at like Fizz is like, all right, the spotlight's going to be on you, but I'm not, and that gets into the schematic stuff. Like, I'm not going to give you any of the tools you need to actually potentially succeed. Now, was some of that on Julius? I'm sure it was, and that leads us to like, what is Thibodeau doing behind the scenes? But, so yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to say. People are going to start talking about Randle now nationally. And here we are, like having watched this for the last however many, year and change. And we have all this stuff we want to say because we're going to hear other people start to talk about it. And we're like, no, we have the scoop. I feel like what?
It's so amazing. I'm so happy that it's happening while he's a Knick.
Yeah.
Went somewhere else and did this. Oh, just like
it'd be painful.
We've seen that and heard it too many times. Yeah.
No, and good job by you. Good job by the front office. And we don't know if they had the opportunity to do so or not trading him away for essentially as a salary dump, because now, again, let's all enjoy the time he's giving us here, not worry about trade stuff. It sounds like there is maybe another thing or two you want to say about what you have, what has stood out to you. So I'll give you another opportunity. What else has stood out?
Yeah. So the defense is real. That's standing out to me.
Can I get that on a poster, on a mug, on a t-shirt?
It's real. Well, so I think at the beginning of in the off season, like just before the first game of the season, I tweeted that my biggest hot take was I thought there was a
top 15
for them to be a top 15 league average defense. Yeah. Here we are. We're at, what are we, 9th in defense rating right now?
It's 9th as of right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think,
and I think higher in cleaning the glass. Actually, I'll check that. But continue.
So I think the Knicks have gotten a little bit lucky in some respects. Like they've gotten some shooting luck, just like looking at the numbers. So I think they probably are closer to middle of the pack than that top 10. But I think that's real. I think they really are a top 15 defense, or like right in that range, 15 to 10.
Sixth cleaning the glass, which for those who don't know, cleaning the glass filters out garbage time. So,
oh well, hey, that's even more encouraging. I mean, it's totally real, and they've not been playing with their best defensive personnel either. Now Toppin is going to get more minutes when he comes back, so that's something to that's
to monitor.
Yeah, that's going to hurt a little bit. But yeah,
who do you think is their? Sorry, I don't cut. Who do you think is their weakest defensive? So let's go with the 9 guys. Let's put Noel back in for the moment. So Noel, Rivers, Quickly. Actually, no. Let's expand it to 10. Noel, Rivers, Quickly, Burks, Knox, and then the starting 5. Is there someone that stands out to you more than the rest, or like 2 guys that stand out to you as like guys who are substandard, or do you feel like everybody is at least pulling their weight, or where are you at on that?
Elfrid Payton stands out.
You just couldn't wait to talk about Elf. I told you we're going to talk about Elf. You can't wait. You just got to talk about him right now.
It's the point of attack defense. It starts everything off. So like, anything getting funneled to Mitch or Noel, those guys are both elite rim protectors. And Mitch especially he's taken some steps this year.
Thank you for saying that. I feel like I see it every possession, and I'm.
He still there's still some times where when so for example, like in drop coverage is like impossible for bigs. I mean, it's so hard. Mitch is like just naturally really gifted at it, but you're put in a 2-on-1 situation. And so there are times where Mitch will sell out, for example, for the roll, which leaves it open for like on the roll man, which leaves it open for sort of like a floater or layup from the ball handler. But he's still doing really well. He's staying disciplined for the most part. You watch him, something that he started to do last year and has just like really, he's now like every single time he's in drop coverage, watch what he does with his offhand, sticks it right in the chest of the roll man. And because you can't look at the roll man because you have to keep your eyes on the ball handler. So when he puts his hand in, that's his way of knowing where that guy is and knowing what's happening and keeping track of him. And it's incredibly tough to do because your focus has to be on the ball handler, and you're facing guys like Trae Young is like, you know what I mean? Like elite ball handlers. Just if your only goal is to stop that person, like it's an impossible task, but he has to do that plus keep track of another man. Right.
And I don't get it, because I feel like for all of the faults in Mitch's game that we've seen over the last 2 years, like he always seemed like a guy who had good awareness of what was going on, but just needed to work on the finer things. So I'm happy now we're seeing, because like I feel like people would toss around like the low basketball IQ with Mitch. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't see it. Like I guess where you're coming from with that, with like the silly fouls, but that's to me was more of a conditioning issue than an IQ. Like, so I'm loving everything you're saying, because it kind of, I feel like it validates what I've thought for a while now.
I think his defensive feel is sort of off the charts. His sort of like his ability to recognize who's going to shoot, where the ball, and just like his weak side help. That sort of awareness is off the charts. It's where maybe people question sometimes, like things he does on offense sort of make you go,
that is fair.
What are you doing here, man? Or like his timing on screens, like just like some of that stuff, which like you just sort of feel it. Like sometimes people, maybe what happens is that people think they put everything into one box for IQ. But there's actually like a lot of different skills, and they're not the same. And being really good at one of them might mean, you could still, need a lot of work on others. But defensively, other things he's grown at besides that hand thing is just like staying planted, not going up, being patient, and then going straight up. He still comes down a little bit at times, but keeping his hand straight up. And the dude is just so tall. He's so long. It's incredible. Yeah, his steps. He's been taking huge steps.
But the reason you got into him was you were mentioning Elf. Can I just give you a stat real quick? And this is not completely fair because the other two guys who play heavy minutes, RJ Barrett is they are 7.7 points per 100 possessions worse with Barrett on the floor defensively. So let me rephrase that. They give up 7.7 points more per 100 possessions with Barrett on the floor. Julius Randle, it's up 8.6. So again, take all your advanced numbers with several grains of salt because as you just detailed, Randle has had an outstanding defensive year. Elfrid Payton is a team low 10.1. So Knicks are giving up 10.1 more points per 100 possessions when he is on the floor, which is, it's interesting.
Yeah. So here's what's happening essentially. So like I was saying, Mitch and Noel, they're excellent rim protectors, but they can only do so much. And Elf is essentially the point of attack man has to stay connected to the ball handler. In this scheme, a lot of times you're going to be trailing around the screen. So you're behind him, but you have to, it's called a rear view contest. You have to rear view contest and you have to fight to get back in front of your man. And I mean, we've seen a masterclass from Frank Ntilikina on just this exact, defensive principle. And Elfrid Payton, I mean, my God, last night against Trae Young, he didn't even, John Collins was slipping every screen because they realized it doesn't matter. Like as soon as Trae Young was without a single move, he was just like, start running down the lane. And then Elf's like, oh, now I'm behind you. I'm on your hip, man. It's like, dude, what do you even do? Like, I don't even understand. And it's not like he's got like the lateral quickness. He's not like super slow or anything. Or
no,
I don't know. I don't know if it's an effort I really don't know.
Could someone tell Clyde? I mean, look, we're not allowed to say anything bad about Clyde, but he continues to be like, every time he first mentions Payton in the beginning of a game, Elfrid Payton known for his defense. And I just want to be like, well, maybe not in the way you're talking about.
Maybe by someone or somewhere. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. So what happens is then all this pressure is put on Mitch and Noel. Yeah. So, I mean, we're giving up a lot of shots at the rim and the field goal percentage for those shots at the rim, like higher than we ought to be by a good bit. And the field goal percentage on those shots at the rim actually isn't very good for shooting at the rim, but still teams are shooting at the rim where you don't want them to be shooting because
when the whole defense is predicated on not allowing teams to take those shots. So the fact that they are taking so many there's clearly a breakdown somewhere. And I think you pointed exactly why it is. Yeah.
Point of attack. Yep. So like seriously, if you had 48 minutes of Frank and Mitch and Quickly and Noel you can also put, I actually think Austin Rivers looked actually last night. I was pretty impressed with his on-ball defense. Or his point of attack defense. I haven't paid a lot of attention to it, but he was mirroring Trae Young, getting into his body. I was pretty impressed. So 48 minutes of those pairings, I think you actually this could be a top 10 defense. I know that's crazy. It's crazy.
Getting me hot and bothered over here.
I know. Right? That's how they're playing.
You're skipping ahead. Literally the question that I had written down to ask you about Elf is here's exactly what I wrote. Elf, arrow, any justifiable basketball reason to keep him in SL starting lineup. And I have a feeling you just answered that. Here's the thing. Devil's advocate. Right
now, I don't mind him playing.
Okay.
Well, I mean, with Rivers, like I think just across the roster, it's hard to be very critical of any of the sort of lineup decisions because of the injuries. It's not like he could have just put, had Quickly start. Quickly wasn't even in the, he wasn't playing. You couldn't just put Rivers or Burks in. There was no Frank. They're all injured. So like, what are you going to do? Elf's going to play. And to Elf's credit, there are things that drive me insane about him on offense too. But to his credit, he's the last several games he's been getting to the hoop.
Yeah, putting a ton of pressure on the rim.
Yeah, and that's good stuff. I don't want him. The biggest thing I don't want with Elfrid Payton is he should never ever share the floor with RJ Barrett. That's the thing that kills me.
What about that kills you in particular? Can you put that into words?
Yeah. It's just a running theme with this organization about putting our rookies in the best possible situations to succeed,
or our young players in this instance. Yeah.
Yeah. Good correction. So he's, RJ is, as far as like the future goes, he's our best young player. Mm-hmm. Him and Mitch, they're the ones with the most promise. But
RJ's the guy with the ball in his hands. So
yeah. You want to put them in optimal roles to succeed. You just have to, with RJ, have spacing around him. Again, I'm not being overly critical right now because of all the injuries, but if we get to, game 25 and RJ Barrett is still playing with only one other shooter on the floor for most of his minutes, being Reggie Bullock, who's questionable shooter at this point.
Well, he's having the worst shooting. So far, it's early, but he's having the worst shooting year of his career so far. Yeah.
And it's early, so I'm not, whatever, but he was struggling last year too. So I don't know.
Didn't have a great year last year.
Yeah. What is, if you put those two things together, what's he shooting? Maybe 34% as a Knick or something, or 30, it's not very good. And that's the best shooter on the floor with RJ Barrett. You just can't do that. So he has to, he needs to be put in an environment where he can succeed. And he's struggling as a finisher. That's RJ. That's where he needs to improve. And it's just not fair to ask a guy to be improving as a finisher when he's going to be facing as many bodies as he's going to face when you're playing.
I have a theory. I think I said it on this podcast. It's the dodgeball theory. If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball. This is 2 years worth of wrenches, and they are preparing it. Hey, listen, at some point, he's just going to see regular, dodgeballs. It's going to be, this really? I can do this,
Maybe that was, we tried that with Knox with Fizdale.
Well, maybe you never know. Listen, it's still time. There's still, hey, look, when he is, man, when he's going, when the shot's falling and he's I can't quit Kevin Knox. I just don't have it in me.
I think RJ Barrett, Kevin Knox, Emmanuel Quickley, Mitchell Robinson, and Frank, they're just it's a collection of super likable dudes.
Yeah.
They are just so likable on the court. They're fun. They're excited. They get into it. RJ's got that old school thing going on. Knox has that sheepish, youthful, Quickley's just jumping. There's such a fun team right now to watch. We're not even analyzing things. We're just I'm just getting excited.
But listen, this is what many, many, many years of losing will do to you. Look, there's Elfrid Payton, if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, there's no benefit to having him on the floor. It's so that creates an interesting situation. I think it's the biggest question of the season moving forward, in the immediate future moving forward, is what Thibs does when they get a little healthier. And the reason I asked any justifiable basketball reason is because, you never know how locker room dynamics and what have you. And
right.
Should that play a role? And look, I'm not fit to answer that question, but I don't know. We'll see. Obviously I don't disagree with anything you said. Let's talk about the offense real quick. So I brought up before the pod. Do you see more? Because it seems to me, rudimentary basketball mind, that there is more sophistication in the sets that they're running. But I also think that they're just, to your point about Julius Randle setting screens, they are just doing things crisper and cleaner and all the stuff you need to do to win basketball games. Do you see more of one, more of the other? Do you see it kind of 50-50? Where are you at? Or do you see it not, maybe I'm overstating things and maybe you don't see the offense as being all that much better?
I want to say a couple of things about the offense. So I don't think it's fair to judge until we see the actual, until we get actual shooters on the floor.
Okay.
Because the first thing I'll say is Thibs understands modern spacing. Say whatever you want about him, he understands it. They have really so I would say the offense is actually very simplistic right now. There's two sets they use all the time, And there's like 2 other sets that they go back to. So they're always.
Could you just say what those are? Because I think fans would really like to hear this.
So they're always using pistol sets, which we used under Mike Miller. I mean, every NBA team uses pistol sets. Essentially, what you'll see is a guy, the ball handler runs down the sideline. And then when so it's the set that Emmanuel quickly got his big dunk on last night.
Oh, when he blew by.
Yeah.
I've watched that literally a dozen times. And every time I'm like, what is happening here? I just don't.
If you remember from last season, Frank got a dunk on the same exact set, actually.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
So what happens is, so this play is so common. And it ends up looking a lot like a wedge screen because you'll have a wing who is on the wing on that baseline, and he runs up towards the ball handler. So they're like sort of running towards each other on the sideline. And there's a big who's closer to the top of the key, ready to set a screen. Mm-hmm. So now what happens is the ball handler can toss it to the wing, keep the ball. And then if he keeps the ball, he can either decide to attack baseline or to attack middle of the floor using the screen. So you have, or he can toss it, in which case the wing will come around the screen and he'll use. So it's just like, it gives you a bunch of pick and roll options basically. But the Knicks run it so much and teams in the NBA run it so much, but almost always that sort of like baseline attack isn't there. And so what you typically do is you typically see the point guard holds the ball and then runs the pick and roll or tosses the ball and you get this middle pick and roll with the wing. So like, okay. I think RJ Barrett maybe in that case, but once in a while you do keep it and you can catch the defense flat footed. And that's exactly what happened. So he just kept the ball and he just attacked, he just went, and he's got quick feet and just nobody was ready for it. Cause they had run that play probably, they'd probably run that set 15, 20 times by that point during the night. And I don't think they had kept and went that direction once.
Yeah, I don't remember it if they did. Nobody
with Quickly's burst did it. Like if Elfrid did it, what Elfrid does is he sort of like, he'll hold the ball and wait, and then he'll do it. Like, right. Like it's the most frustrating thing about him on offense is that he doesn't make quick decisions. So like everybody else we're seeing them when an advantage is created, they're maximizing it. They're moving the ball quickly or attacking quickly. He'll catch a ball with nobody near him. And rather than attacking the paint, swinging the ball or shooting it against the closeout, he'll just like hold it, wait till his guy recovers. And
I love your facial expressions during this. Is fantastic.
Yeah. We're right back at the beginning and we've got to create an advantage again. Like, come on, man, what are you doing? But okay, so back to the offense. So that's pistol sets. And then there's another set we've been using a lot, which is this, like, I really like it. It's very similar to like Terry Stotts with the Blazers uses what sometimes people call like a mover blocker offense, where basically you have movers who like run around the court and you have blockers who like just set screens. And it's really useful because what happens is on both wings, you have screeners. So your bigs. Yeah. So even if your bigs can't shoot, they're all the way out on the perimeter. And they're setting screens ideally for shooters.
Now this is not stagger screens because stagger screens are when both of the bigs are on the same side of the court, right?
Well, so we'll get there. Yeah.
I'm getting ahead of myself,
essentially you have a screener on one end and a screener on the other end.
Okay.
And so what it does is it pulls the defenders out of the paint, because even if the bigs can't shoot, they're setting screens for shooters, and their defenders are going to have to fight through those screens.
Sure.
So it forces a lot of times against good shooters, like against Damian Lillard or CJ McCollum, right? Bigs have to show. They have to show, or else you're going to get hand down, man down every time. And so
it's the first time that's ever been said on this podcast, by the way. Congratulations. You did it.
I'm so glad.
It only took 280 something episodes. Okay.
Although not.
Anyway, sorry.
So even with horrendous shooters like the Knicks have, you can actually create some space in the middle by running sets like this. So the Knicks have been using it, but they've been doing it with a trick. The ball handler usually coming up is one of the movers and will pass into it. So ordinarily in this like mover blocker system, on one wing you have a pin down screen, and on the other wing you have a flare screen. Where a pin down screen is for the shooter to run up towards the top of the key off a screen, where a flare screen is you just run the other direction. You're running down towards the baseline. off a screen. So you on both sides, you have a different action going. And then the ball handler has the option to hit either side. Now, what the Knicks are doing, which is different, is they're having the ball handler be a big most of the time.
Julius Randle.
And he is turning the pin down side of this offense. And again, this isn't unique to Thibs either. The Hawks ran this very same set last night. But he's turning the pin down side into a DHO, a dribble handoff, which it turns it into a stagger. So it's a double. It turns the pin down into a double pin down.
It basically takes Julius Randle like instantly from doing one thing into doing something completely different.
Yeah. And so he becomes the second screener in that stagger, and he can either hand the ball off or keep it. And there's a bunch of variations that they've been sort of doing.
I feel like that's the one that has stood out to me the most, that set.
That's their most commonly run set. That and the pistol are run a lot, but yeah. So
it's simple stuff, but again, with where this team is coming from and maybe the personnel and a whole host of other reasons, I don't mind that, hearing that it's simple.
It's exactly how it should be. When you have young guys, you have to start with the basics. Like for Knox right now, he comes down the court and like people have been talking about the game seeming to slow down for him. And on the one hand, I think it is, but on the other hand, it's because he's not being asked to do 8,000 things. And like he fills the corner. He'll set that little, he'll be on the weak side usually. So he'll set the flare or be the one the flare is set for, and he fills the corner. And then, that set doesn't work and it flows into a pick and roll. And then he does he's the shaker. He's doing really good at this. He comes up to the wing. And then he fills the corner again when it's appropriate. And he's just doing it's not very complicated. And
that's progress.
It's amazing.
Kevin Knox.
But because this is how progress works, right? Like he'll get this down and it'll be ingrained in him. And then you build on it slowly but surely, right? And I think this is what we're going to see with the offense. And I think we'll see it with the defense too. We'll see variety be built in, but slowly but surely, unlike with Fizdale, where we had a new defense every single night, which was often really intuitive and interesting. But you just didn't have the personnel.
It was wonderful. I'm sure the players were really interested in it night after night.
I mean, I honestly think if you had put Fizdale on the Raptors and let him run those defensive schemes, you might have actually seen a really great defense.
Yeah.
It's the one thing I'll say for Fizz. There's a lot of times where I thought what he was doing was interesting and unique, but he just did not have it. He'd never realized rookie Kevin Knox and second year Mitchell Robinson cannot execute and then round it out with Julius Randle and Elbert Payton cannot execute these complicated schemes.
I'm just hearing you talk about the offense. I'm reminded of somebody, I'll just say someone who has knowledge of how things have been working this year with the Knicks. That this is Thibs is looking at this as a multi-year process in terms of building out this offense, and is started off day one with, not quite this, but hey guys, this is basketball. And here's what we try to do with it. And no, but that's, again, I think that's where they're at. It's where they should be. So, hey, more power to them.
It's beautiful. They are, you can see it on film. They are executing fundamentals that you and I have complained on here about for years. Yep. They're doing it. So the screens, setting good, proper screens. We're seeing growth. Beyond that, on the defensive side, helping the helper, just the basic drop, pick and roll schematic things. Almost every single person on the team, doesn't matter how bad they are at how much defensive talent they have, they're executing. Knox is bumping the roll man. Yeah. He's digging. He's showing, right? He's hedging when he's supposed to. They're working on getting their X outs, getting them fluid and right. They're covering and scrambling in the right sort of way. They're communicating. It's very clear. These are fundamentals. They're simple. Any good basic NBA defense can handle them, but the Knicks haven't done it for a long time, and they're showing competency. And I think a lot of people are shocked because they didn't realize like, hey, Mitchell Robinson is super good at defense. RJ's reasonable. And there's a bunch of like reasonable team defenders here.
Yeah.
And I think that's why because of how bad the fundamentals have been for so long, I think people are being a little bit shocked or surprised at how good the defense looks. But when you just execute fundamentally sound defense in the regular season, you can go.
And I'm happy you said that, because things could change in the playoffs when coaches have time to scheme for you and just you for a 2-week period. You just made me think of, like, again, the looming, decision about Elfrid Payton. Does he continue in the starting lineup? Does he keep playing at all? Quickly, to me, Emmanuel Quickly seems like already as a rookie, with rotations and knowing where to be, and like instantly like, oh wait, I don't have to be there anymore. Now I need to be over here. His awareness seems really high to me. Have you noticed the same thing by any chance?
Yep, absolutely. He's had a few like, it's obvious the game is happening fast on the defensive end for him.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
A few times where he's lost his man, or he thought like he like knew where his man should have been, and then he turned around and then he started chasing someone because he thought it was his man, but it was a different man, and then he like has to hop back. He's like, "Where's my guy?" Right? Like things are happening like that. But he's got the right instincts, and he's engaged and trying hard. He understands the principles. I mean, you will never miss that guy. Showing on the if the ball handler is coming around a screen and he's the closest perimeter defender, that man is going to be at the nail, reaching in, right? He's there every single time. So I view him as, he's got the potential to be a reasonable defender.
I'm so happy to hear that. We always do this. I say, I'm going to get you out of here quick. And then I start talking to you. I'm like, I could talk to this person for 3 hours. Couple very quick ones. You talked about Randle already, so maybe not him. Just someone you've enjoyed watching, maybe even not for like X's and O's reasons, but just someone who has given you joy this season, or something that has given you joy this season from the Knicks. Oh,
Emmanuel Quickly. He has so much joy. The guy exudes joy. Like, I feel like he's like sort of like people sometimes laugh at me because like when I walk down the street, sometimes I'll just like skip. I just like get a little happy and like.
That's why I love you, Dallas. That's why you're the best.
But he's like got that. Like he's just like on the court, and then all of a sudden he's just like it's like it's a timeout, nothing's going on. He's just like walking maybe to get some Gatorade, and then he's just like boop boop, just like does a couple of bounces, like, and he just has this like it's like this like childish joy kind of, or like I don't like, not to say it's childish, like we should all wish to be so joyful, right? Yeah. But it's just like it's invigorating. It's like I wish the Garden was full, because people would feed off that enthusiasm. So, and I think there's been a few times where he's like, he's like trying to get the crowd into it, so to speak. But there's no crowd. But like, I think, my God, I think they would just love him, and I think they would explode. And I'm just having a blast watching him do anything at all, basketball or otherwise.
Well, he's played less than a full game's worth of minutes, 46 as we sit and record, 46 non-garbage time minutes as we record this right now. And the Knicks have outscored their opponents during that time by a little less than 20 points per 100 possessions. So he's usually about 100 possessions in a game. So yeah, I would say Emmanuel Quickly's doing some nice things.
Yeah.
He brings me joy as well. The last thing I want to ask you, and I'll leave it kind of general and you can take it where you want, just something you want to see moving forward, whether it's aside from maybe perhaps lessening Elfrid Payton's playing time period / with RJ Barrett. Is there like a type of player you would love to see this team get via trade? Is there just like a certain combination you want to see? Are you already thinking ahead to, man, I hope we could draft this type of player, or signs? Like where's do you have anything on that front?
To be honest, I'm just enjoying the ride so much. I mean, I've thought a lot about this actual team and like what I want to see from this team.
Okay. That's what I mean. So what do you want to see more of from this team?
Okay. But just the ride has been so great. But yeah, so what do I want to see? So I mentioned this previously. I want to see RJ Barrett in the best possible lineups.
What is that to you? That's a good place to end. What do you, if it's your 4 guys you're putting around him in your perfect world?
So let's say quickly, Burks or Rivers, either one of those I think would be fine.
Okay.
At the 2, and then put RJ at the 3, and then let's do Mitch at the 5, and then either Toppin or Knox at the 4, I guess. I want to say Knox kind of. I just want shooting gravity out there around him. But the reason I say I want Toppin would be,
I kind of want Toppin, and that's no shade on Knox, but I see where you're going with this.
Well, so this is the other big thing that I want to see from this team. Well, I mean, I want to see other things. I'm like so excited, especially now that you've just mentioned this. I've been thinking about it a lot anyways, but I'm like excited to see how Thibs slowly adds complexity to both the offense and the defense. I want to see it grow, and it's going to be really fun, I think, to start where we are now and like just watch.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the big question for me going forward is Mitch and Toppin. Do they fit together? Can they play together? RJ, Mitch, and Toppin. Do they fit together? Can they play together? Those are big questions. Questions. Looking to the future, they're questions that have to be answered. And I think part of the reason why we're seeing, like, I've heard some people complaining about, I mean, we've hardly seen Toppin at all. But
I can't already with this. Yeah, right. I know you're not going to do it. I can't when people like, we blew the pick.
Oh, no, the complaint I've seen is like, why are we having him shoot a zillion threes?
That's another complaint, but like, okay.
Yeah. So, but the what I think is happening is like, I think when you think about putting Mitch and Toppin together, like what's both of their biggest strength? Oh, it's their roll gravity.
Yeah.
And Mitch is better than Toppin.
And they can't both do it.
Exactly. So you run into the Lob City Clippers problem. What do you do when you have Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan on the court? I mean, maybe we're not there yet, but it's the problem that they ended up running into.
I hope they're having these discussions in the front office, right?
And I think they are. So I think this is why. I mean, I hope they were having them before the draft too.
Listen, I could say with not any. I don't feel comfortable saying authority. They vetted this out a lot. They knew it. They didn't take Toppin because they saw highlight videos from dunks and was like, "Oh, that's cool," no.
Not the Perry Mills.
Well, I was about to say we won't name. We don't have to name names.
Yeah. But so I think maybe like part of what we're seeing on the court is them realizing, look, one thing that if we're going to have this fit long term is we're going to need Toppin and Mitch to be able to work together. And for them to work together, we're going to need Toppin to shoot threes. Mm. And so like we've been seeing these cool stagger sets, which, I mean, I'm telling you, those stagger sets could be just devastating. They could be the foundation of a perennial, top of the league offense. If you have a pull-up shooter.
Yeah.
So like somebody who just imagine like Trae Young. I mean, that's like, wait, maybe that's even too pie in the sky, but imagine like Trae Young with Mitch's gravity, roll gravity, and then somebody who had legitimate pop gravity, but also some roll gravity. And you just didn't know who was going to roll, who was going to pop, who was going to flip the screen. That combination, it's just deadly. Now, can Toppin actually get to be that sort of shooter? That's a tough question. But I want to see them experiment with different things, different ways of putting those guys together.
But that's why to me, that's why you make him the lottery ticket as opposed to a Halliburton or whoever else you could take in there. Because look, I don't know what the percentage is that he gets to be that level of shooter, but man, if he does, with the ability to put the ball on the floor and the passing that we've already seen, and then obviously the stuff he could do around the rim, to me, that's a thing you build an offense around, right?
Yes. Now there's questions on can he stay on the floor in the playoffs because of defense. That is a question. Huge question. But so the other thing I want to see is I want to see Toppin's playmaking. You just mentioned it.
I love it.
So on a team bereft of playmakers, which we are,
yep. And
I think we've been doing a really great job of sort of diffusing the playmaking. And part of that is what we talked about, this like ability to maintain, like get a small advantage, whether like because they double Julius Randle or just off a screen, Reggie Bullock coming around that stagger we talked about, having just a step and then making quick decisions and then maximizing it. But when you're bereft of playmakers, you got to find ways of getting playmaking. And Toppin is just an incredible passer. So I want to see him get the ball on the short roll.
Oh, yeah.
With Mitch in like the dunker spot, maybe. That's another sort of way of maybe using both of them where Mitch can still be a lob threat. But Toppin is getting the ball as the screener and roller, and he's getting it early so that he can hit the wing, the corner, and he can hit Mitch if Mitch is open, or he can finish himself, and he's a good finisher. So I really want to see that sort of thing. Prez has been talking about that, that particular sort of action. And then I want to see him in the high post. I just want to see him get the ball in positions where he can make decisions and play make a little bit. I just want to see that happen.
I would love to see that too. And I know this is not what I asked you, but because I asked you about RJ, but if you give me Obi and Mitch together, I wouldn't mind seeing them for, maybe 5 minutes a game here and there moving forward once Obi's healthy without RJ on the floor. And instead with 3 shooters who you have to worry about, whether it's quickly Burks and Bullock or maybe Rivers in one of those spots, or even Frank, right? I mean, if that shooting is real,
Fun. That would be so fun. That'd be great.
Yeah. Give Obi a chance. Give him a chance to cook. See what the kid is made of. I'm with you. I'm excited to see those things as well. Dallas, I've kept you for longer than I promised I would. Any closing thoughts for you before I get you out of here?
The only thing, you had a question on Twitter you wanted to address.
Oh, yes. I hold on. I'm going to pull it up right now. Yes, it was, I think it was from Ray. I'm going to raring to go. You crack me up. Oh yeah, we actually kind of did talk about this. Ray Marcano asked if to get into some detail on the Knicks interior defense. In the paint, players hit a spot with hands down and don't leave their feet, hoping to take a charge. Is that what is keeping Mitch out of foul trouble? I think you talked about Mitch keeping his hands down. I don't think it's about him trying to take a charge. I think it's just about him not putting himself in a position to allow players to draw fouls on him. If that's how I'm reading it, but I'm curious what you think. Yeah,
I mean, well, so definitely, I think you want to have high active hands, but definitely Thibs is collapsing the paint. So like the 2 principles that I think I'm noticing schematically are shrink the paint, and so exactly what Ray, is that right? Is Ray? What he was suggesting is absolutely right, where you're seeing anytime there's a pick and roll, you'll see literally every defensive player just shrinks in, right? But they all have specific roles. So they're not all just like coming in for no reason, or right. They're all doing particular things. There's on the strong side of the pick and roll, you're trying to get to the nail and show the ball handler an extra body to make it harder for them to get into the paint. On the weak side, you have the low man is bumping the roll man, and then recovering. But the second principle of their defense is then to take away the corners. So You'll see very clearly that they are like allowing, almost like rolling out a red carpet for the ball handler and pick and rolls to kick the ball to the wing. They're like, here, the wing is like literally wide open. And they're having whoever is not the bumper, the defender who stays closest on the perimeter, close out to the corner. So even if the ball does get to the corner, which is harder, then they're there to shut down or to close out quick enough. And then you have the long close out to the wing, which sometimes doesn't get there and allows that wing or above the break 3. But it seems like they're willing to live with that if they can close down the paint, which they haven't done that great at so far, but that's what they're trying to do.
Not yet.
And then the corners. So yeah, Ray, that was a great question.
I'm looking up their corner 3 defense. Their teams are taking a decent amount of corner 3s against them. They rank 19th in the league at giving up corner 3s. So 18 teams give up fewer frequency of or lower frequency, excuse me, of corner threes. But the Knicks are giving up the fourth lowest percentage. The three teams ahead of them are the Clippers, the Celtics, and the Lakers. Clippers, Celtics, and Lakers are, pretty good defenses. Right below them, the Raptors, the Sixers, the Heat, again, three good defenses. You wonder, are the Knicks, I feel like they've contested the corners so.
I think they've done well. Yeah. I mean, it's early, so it's tough to buy those numbers.
I shouldn't even be giving them, but yeah,
I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to hear them because it does seem connected to the film. So I'm a little more confident in buying numbers when they're connected to the film.
Yeah,
early. Yes. But still, 3-point shooting can especially take a while to stabilize. But yeah, I'm very pleased to hear that.
It's nice to hear the company that they're in. Yeah, all those good teams
this year.
Man, is it too early for the Ben Simmons Defensive Player of the Year campaign? Because man, I've watched them a couple other times other than when we played. I mean, that was a Defensive Player of the Year performance he put on against us, and the other games I've watched, that dude is frightening. All right, I think that's it. Anything else for me? I feel, I really could talk to you for hours. Every time I get on here with you, I'm just like, this is great.
That's what I before this I said I feel like I got to call up to the major leagues for.
Oh my God! The podcast gets a call up to the major leagues by you coming on it. That is what is happening. Let's call it like it is. Can you tell the folks at home where they could find you and your wonderful thoughts and things?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at @DallasAmico_. I sometimes write for the Strickland. I'm sort of working on a new video project with the Nick of Time. So like a collaboration thing we're going to try to do. I've been tardy, slow at getting to things, and also just hoping to get some more film with the shooters. But we're gonna try to do a series maybe where we talk about the Knicks offense, kind of break down some of the plays. So I think it should be cool. So look out for that, which hopefully will be coming at some point.
Well, that is worth getting excited over. I am certainly excited about that. Everything you do is just fantastic. And if you're a Knicks fan and you're not following Dallas, you got to reassess your life choices there, because he's just a great follow. You do it all, and you have just a wonderful, brilliant basketball mind, and you don't even want to do this for a living, which again, it's staggering to me, because you could be working, I don't know, in whatever capacity you want in basketball, but I know you have other stuff that is a worthy cause or a worthy expenditure of time. So I won't say anything else.